Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. It looks like Anthony Joshua is serious about making changes to his training setup. Eddie Hearn, his promoter, revealing that there will be a new trainer and Joshua will be heading to the United States for his training camp to train with that trainer. So still to be revealed who that trainer is, but it is highly speculated that it is going to be Derrick James, who's a very good trainer. He trains undisputed 154-pound champ Jermel Charlo and also 3-belt champion Errol Spence. Although if it is James, there is a question about his work with heavyweights. I'm not too familiar with what sort of heavyweights he's trained at any real level. But if it's not James, I mean, there's certainly other options out there that Joshua has tried on before. Eddie Reynoso, Ronnie Shields, Virgil Hunter. Virgil Hunter's had Tony Yoka and Dominic Breazeale at heavyweight in recent years. Ronnie Shields, longtime trainer, has trained several heavyweight champions over the decades. And Eddie Reynoso has most recently had Frank Sanchez. And of course, he has Canelo Alvarez as well in his gym. So Joshua, it had been a question, what would he do? What was he going to implement that would be different, that would help advance his cause, his career? And it had been, I think, a bone of contention with fans that he'd had these two different trainers, for his most recent few camps. And this is not just the Robert Garcia situation, but also you had Robert McCracken with the Shadow and Angel Fernandez also there as well. So does that mean that Angel Fernandez is off the scene now? Because for the Andy Ruiz rematch, the Kubrat Pulev fight and Alexander Usyk won, he was a key part of that camp and clearly had Joshua's ear, was a confidant of Joshua's, and was a big part of the strategy and game plans for those fights. But Joshua, just by moving to the United States to have a training camp, which presumably is going to be in the gym of the trainer, which will be a little bit something different from these university camps where Joshua sort of corrals himself and sparring partners and sort of holds court and is the boss there. It will be the trainer calling the shots, presumably. And you'd have to imagine so, because what top-tier trainer wants to be dictated to by a fighter for a training camp? I mean, it was a bit odd, that whole Robert Garcia situation, having to come over, and then there's this other trainer that's basically the co-head trainer in Angel Fernandez, and you're sort of sequestered to a university for 10, 12 weeks training. Nothing wrong with that, but I think the whole trying to replicate the sort of situation Vladimir Klitschko had, maybe it's time for Joshua to move on, be his own man, and try to give over some control, which he seems to be doing if he's having his training camp, one, in the United States. He's got a new trainer and will be training with them in the United States. So I'll be interested to see the details, who it is. I mean, Derrick James is a very good trainer, good tactician, had a lot of success with Spence and also Jermel Charlo. He's good at tactics, he's good at game planning, and I think with the fundamentals, Joshua can probably also pick up a few things as well. But I do think that for this first fight of 2023 for Joshua, it's not really going to matter who he's going to be facing. It'll just be sort of bedding in the new training relationship, because presumably Joshua's got to stop chopping and changing, that he's got to start actually solidifying his situation with one head trainer, and he's got to try and make a go of it for at least 3, 4, 5 fights to really see where things are at, because for one fight we're not going to be able to take too much from it. I mean, how much influence in that fight, this rematch, did you see with Usyk, did you see from Robert Garcia? Not a whole lot. It looked a lot like the first fight, but I think part of that might have been Joshua reverting to type, given the guy who was in front of him and what he was comfortable doing. He hadn't had enough time with Garcia. And if Garcia is off the scene completely, I mean, it's a little bit hard to really sort of say what impact he had on Joshua for that fight with Usyk, and whether his time with Joshua, what either gained from it. And I don't think you can sort of pan him either, because it was just one fight. A bit hard to take too much from it. But from what Garcia had said, he'd also said Joshua should be coming to the United States, that if he was to still train with Joshua, he needed to come to the States. He needed to be in his gym. Maybe it's an outside shot that Garcia is still on the scene. I don't know. I don't know what their relationship was like in terms of how they gelled and whether Joshua wants to continue with him. Both have said things that have sort of indicated the relationship is over, and that's sort of similar to what happened with Anthony Joshua and Robert McCracken. There was no real formal sort of split. It was just over time became clear they weren't training together. And then that was later sort of confirmed, but it wasn't like any sort of statement came out from either about it. But after the fact, sort of said, hey, just need to try something new. But it was months way after the fact that it actually became clear that they weren't training together. So Joshua, a new trainer, a camp in the United States, a fight on April the 1st, according to Eddie Hearn. So in another video, I'll talk about potential opponents because it's becoming clear. A couple of guys seem to be in the fray, but we'll discuss that in another video. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.